All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. This is part of our ongoing security awareness program. Today, we're going to look at artificial intelligence, or AI, something many of us are aware of and already using, and how it's creating new risks and threats, and how we can stay ahead of those. So it's important to note that this session will not be about technical implementation of AI, but instead awareness, smart usage, and about practical security behaviors that we can employ. So here's a quick overview of what we'll cover today. The session will be broken up into four main parts. The first one is understanding AI. So what is AI? What is it meant to do? I'll highlight common tools you're likely already using or familiar with, and how these tools and systems process information. Then we'll go over security risks of AI. So how are these tools introducing risks? This, can be a scale from unintentional exposure all the way to deliberate threats, and how AI is creating more enhanced phishing attacks. We'll get into that. And then I'll go through some real world examples, security incidents where AI was involved in security breaches, policy violations, so on and so forth. And lastly, best practices for secure AI use. So practical steps you can take to use AI tools securely, both at work and in your personal life if you choose to do so. So let's jump right into it, understanding AI. So when we talk about AI, we're referring to systems that mimic human intelligence, things like understanding language, recognizing patterns, and making decisions. So you're probably familiar with some of them. I have some examples here on the slide, but some of them more popular ones are generative AI like ChatGPT, Copilot, and then some of them like voice assistants like Siri, Alexa, and many systems that can be used, productivity platforms, Microsoft 365, the list goes on and on. So these are all part of what we call narrow AI, which are very specific task-specific systems that people use to accomplish everyday goals in their organization, in their job, and again, in their daily lives. So let's go into enterprise AI. So this is AI in the workplace, AI in the organization. So AI is growing. Adoption in enterprise AI is, continuously growing. So AI has quietly integrated itself into the tools that we use every day, often without us even realizing it. So, you see AI in email apps, such as like suggested replies. You see it in customer service tools like customer service bots, that chat that you pops up when you go to like a new web page. You see it in project management tools like summarizing meetings, providing meeting notes, anything like that. And even some organizations who have development programs can use AI in their coding assistants like GitHub Copilot. So I have some more examples here on the slide, but anywhere from business automation, again, code generation and review, document summarization, and even some companies use AI as anomaly detection and endpoint detection and response if they choose. So enterprise AI is growing across the board. So I have a little quick metric here, but to put it in perspective, the adoption rate of AI is growing and continuously accelerating. According to the most recent survey, 78% of respondents said their organizations use AI in at least one business function. That's up from 72% earlier in 2024 and 55% a year before that. So the growing reliance on AI makes it all that more important that we start thinking about it critically in regards to security, data handling, and governance around these AI tools. Sorry. All right, so let's talk about the 5 most common security risks associated with AI today. So the first one is data exposure. So this is when users use an AI tool and they input sensitive information into it. So specifically public ones like ChatGPT that don't require a license. The data can be stored, reused, or even leaked sometimes. So we've seen incidents where confidential code or internal business data and documents ended up outside of the organization because of this type of misuse. The next one we have is model hallucination. So this is when AI models or platforms can generate false or misleading information while still sounding very confident. So these hallucinations lead to poor decisions if users are using the output from the AI tool to make decisions as a fact without actually taking the time to verify it. Next, we have shadow AI, which is actually a very important risk in organizations. It's when employees use AI tools without the approval or oversight from IT, security, or even management. So it creates blind spots in risk posture for an organization because the tools that these employees are using might not follow the organization's privacy, data retention, or even compliance standards and policies. So this is a very important risk to always keep in mind. Then you have over-reliance. So as AI becomes more embedded in our daily work and our workflows, there's a risk of placing too much trust in the output. So it's important to remember that AI should not assist and completely in decision making. It should not replace critical thinking. Relying on AI without checking can introduce bias, errors, and security oversights from model hallucination, which is the bullet point that we just referenced. And lastly, we have loss of attribution. So when AI generates content or decisions, it's not always clear where the information comes from. And so it's harder to trace sources, verify accuracy, and even assign accountability when mistakes do happen. You can say, oh, I got it from, ChatGPT, but you don't really know where the source of the information was. And especially if it was an output from model hallucination, you've just repeated or transferred information that was misleading from the beginning and you weren't aware because you didn't track it. Next, we have at the bottom, the orange bullet points are actually AI threats. So this is going to connect directly to our security awareness training from last month. So this is a lot of how AI is actually scaling and enhancing social engineering tactics. So the first one we have is phishing. So AI is now being used to generate thousands of grammatically perfect, highly personalized phishing emails in just minutes. So before, people used to say, oh, it's phishing because of the grammar mistakes or because they spelled the name of the company wrong. Now with AI, it's much more difficult to use those kind of hints because AI is being able to replicate these emails very easily. They scrape public data, they can customize messages to make them more believable, they can find the name of your CEO from LinkedIn and just make it more personal to you. So now it's harder to catch. Next, we have deep fakes and voice cloning. So this is related to phishing directly. So attackers can now use AI to mimic voices and faces convincingly. So imagine a voice note, you get an email or maybe you get a text that sounds like your CEO or your boss asking you to do something that they've never asked you to do before. Maybe it's an urgent payment authorization or to give them access into a system. It's very easy to now convince people that these are the people that are reaching out to them. Then you have malicious chatbots. So this actually relates directly to shadow AI. So let's say that a user is, using an AI tool that was not approved by their company, by their organization, maybe it's a fake tool. And there has been, reports of this where someone will stand up, an attacker will stand up a fake code tool and convince people to copy and paste their code, and the AI will magically edit their code or give them better code or review their code with feedback. But then what ends up happening is that the AI actually ingests the code that the user puts into it, and it actually gives back an output of malicious code, leading them to maybe install malware in their computer or just break their code in general. So imagine you take infected code and you move that into one of your own softwares, or even worse, your organization's production environment, and then, everything breaks. So you have to be very careful with where you're putting your information, and especially vetting the AI tools that you're using and making sure that you're using tools with the permission of your organization. Lastly, there's social engineering, obviously, and automated reconnaissance. So again, AI can now analyze dozens, thousands, millions of online profiles, company org charts, and overall online employee presence and behavior to build more convincing emails, texts, whatever it may be, and just make those social engineering attacks so much more personal. So let's take a look at how these risks are now playing into the real world. So they aren't hypothetical anymore, they're actually happening, and they're escalating fast. So keep in mind that these are just 3 incidents that happened within the last couple of years that are large scale incidents. But these attacks and these AI incidents happen every single day, specifically to people on a smaller scale. How many times have you received an email pretending someone to know you, to be your boss, asking you to do things, asking you to add them on LinkedIn, and you don't know who they are? They happen on a small scale every single day, but these are just the big scales that are in the news. So the first one is Samsung in 2023. So employees unintentionally leaked sensitive information because they copied and pasted proprietary code into ChatGPT while they were trying to troubleshoot an issue. And they ended up, it was a classic case of data exposure where they put a whole snippet of Samsung code into the internet because they were using ChatGPT without clear guidance. The next one is a CEO deepfake scam that happened in 2024. So the CEO of the world's largest advertising firm, WPP, was impersonated in a deepfake video call. Attackers used AI to generate video and audio to request a large transfer of sums and funds to a certain person. And the scam nearly worked if it wasn't for somebody who took a step back and did the right thing and confirmed the email or the video call first. But it's just a really scary example of how AI is evolving. And now it's being used to make these social engineering attacks way more advanced. Lastly, we have an AI phone scam in Italy. This just happened in February 2025. So business leaders in Italy were targeted by a wave of AI-powered phone scams. Again, the attackers used cloned voices and contextual information that they scraped from the internet, tricking people into giving up their credentials and authorizing transactions on behalf of them, simply because they thought they were talking to somebody they knew. So how do we stay safe as we continue using AI? Obviously, it's all around us. It's not as simple as just saying, I'm not going to use AI. Because it's been implemented and because it's being, involved in all of the things that we use on our daily to get our jobs done, instead what we have to do is take a step back and learn how to align with security practices and use AI responsibly. So the first one is to always refer to policies. So in terms of our organization, organizations in general, there should always be an information security policy, an acceptable use policy, and some organizations even have AI policies directly. So please make sure you're referring to those policies, you understand your organization's standards and what's allowed and under what conditions. The next is education and awareness. Keep up with training on data safety, data classification, this security awareness training, for example, learning about AI and learning about all the different things that are out there. So that's also very important. Then you have data controls and classification. Again, only share appropriate data with AI tools. Never copy and paste sensitive data or upload confidential information into AI tools or especially unvetted systems. And even outside of the organization, if you're using AI in your personal life, don't upload confidential sensitive information into a platform that you're not familiar with, especially if you're not paying for some sort of license or some sort of protection that covers your private information. And that's related to the fourth bullet point again, tool vetting. Any new AI tool should be reviewed for privacy and compliance. If you have doubts, reach out to your organization, your security team, or even just your direct team. Make sure that the tool has at least some sort of review. Other people have heard of it perhaps, or, if it's your personal life, again, make sure you're not interacting with just random tools that may pop up on social media. Always make sure that you analyze the information that you're putting into a tool and also the, overall tool's reputation. And lastly, human oversight. AI outputs should always be reviewed by a human. Don't rely solely on technology. Again, AI is a tool. It shouldn't replace a human in critical thinking. And so if you're using it for work, make sure that you review the outputs, you put your own, edits into it. You're really checking the output, you're checking the sources, and you're never just taking AI for fact. So to wrap it up, AI is an incredibly powerful tool, but it must be governed like any other critical asset now because it is an asset to many organizations and to people's personal lives. Threat actors are, quickly adopting AI, which means we as defenders must stay one step ahead. Clear policies, strong user education, and ongoing oversight are essential to ensure we're using AI securely. So with these in place, we can confidently leverage AI while protecting our organization from the emerging risks and threats. So that's the end of our conversation. So before we dive into QA, just want to take a moment to thank everyone for your time and attention.